Medicine in the Renaissance, 1500 to 1700. Renaissance means rebirth. The Renaissance period was a time of reborn interest in all things Greek and Roman. Their books and ideas, buildings and sculptures. But in medicine, interest in the Greeks and Romans had never gone away because physicians had kept reading and relying on Galen. After the Black Death, many of the survivors were better off because employers had to pay higher wages to attract workers. Many people had spare time and spare money, and they spent some of this time and money on education. Wealth and education helped trigger the Renaissance. In universities in the 1500s, scholars were still reading translations of Galen, but now they were worried. The translations had been made in the Middle Ages. What if they were wrong? They decided to make new translations, and this work changed attitudes. People realised the Greeks loved inquiry, asking questions, challenging old ideas, and suggesting new ones. Once they began to ask questions and look carefully, some people began to realise that Galen had not known everything and had even made mistakes. But not everyone agreed. Many people still stuck to tradition, not daring to think for themselves. So what developed was a battle between people defending the old ideas and people fighting the new ones. Causes. The natural belief that the humours were in balance was still popular with the public. Instead, the idea of bad miasmas causing illness became common. The idea that God caused illness was becoming less popular, but at desperate times like the Great Plague, people still thought that God sent disease as a punishment for human sin. People also blamed witches. Due to his desire to divorce Catherine of Aragon, Henry VIII launched the Reformation with the Act of Supremacy in 1535. This decreased the power of the Catholic Church, who had slowed medical progress. Doctors believed Galen had given a full correct description of anatomy, and dissection was carried out to show Galen was right, not to check or challenge him. After the Reformation, Vesalius encouraged dissection of human corpses and publishing findings in 1543 in the fabric of the human body. This improved anatomy and proved Galen wrong. In 1546, a new book called On Contagion, Fracastorora, said that disease was spread by seeds in the air. William Harvey built on Vesalius' work through his experiments on frogs. He proved Galen wrong about the circulatory system. He proved that the heart acts as a blood pump and carried only blood, not air. The Zodiac Man was no longer used. In 1676, the medical textbook Observations Medica by Thomas Sydenham encouraged observation and started the science of epidemiology, which was the categorization of different illnesses and disease. Due to the Reformation and Galen being challenged by Harvey and Vesalius, the four humors theory became less popular with physicians. Vesalius made great use of the new invention of the printing press. He chose the best printer and supervised the engraving. Printing meant everything came out the same. Thousands of copies were printed quickly and used all over Europe. Treatments. Treatments based on the four humours, bleeding, purging, laxatives and herbal remedies were still used, but they were decreasing in popularity. Prayer and pilgrimage were also still popular, particularly during desperate times. Surgery remained basic, with amputations and caesareans. Paracelsus was key in developing new chemical treatments around the science of alchemy. For example, he treated syphilis with mercury. New World medicines were brought back by explorers like Columbus and were sometimes successful, like cinchona for dysentery. Transference was also a new idea too, as people thought disease could pass on to objects. The first meetings of a group of people interested in discussing new scientific ideas took place in London in 1645. They continued until they were given a royal charter in 1662 by Charles II and became known as the Royal Society. Preventions. During the Renaissance period, people still used purging and bleeding to balance their humours, but it was becoming less popular. Prayer was also used. Personal hygiene improved as hot water was easier to access. Methods of purifying the air now also included carrying perfume, smoking tobacco, and wearing plague masks. During the Great Plague, social meters like bear baiting were banned and quarantine of 28 days, marked by a red cross on the door, was enforced. The Mayor of London ordered watchmen to guard houses to ensure the sick stayed home. Bodies were now buried 6 feet under, and it was made law to sweep in front of your house. Cats and dogs were also killed. Care. Physicians were still diagnosing the sick. However, now, due to the decreased power of the Church, they were now encouraged to question and were often based in hospitals. The development of the printing press now meant that physicians read the work of people like Vesalius, Harvey, and Sydenham and shared ideas at the Royal Society. Apothecaries, who trained via apprenticeships, still mixed up their herbal remedies. And barber surgeons, who also trained via an apprenticeship, also continued to carry out minor surgical operations. Housewives, usually the lady of the manor, were still the most popular point of call for the sick. However, many women were now prosecuted by the Royal College of Physicians for practising medicine without a licence. During the English Civil War, many were also branded as witches. Due to Henry VIII and the Reformation, the monastery hospitals were closed. People were now treated by nurses, but these women weren't well trained or well paid and often provided poor standards of care. People were now treated in houses, private hospitals, voluntary charity hospitals, and a limited number of local government hospitals or pest houses. The Reformation and the dissolution of the monasteries also led to a reduction in the cleanliness and the quality of care within these new hospitals because religion was no longer sole driving force of care.